Welcome to the Wildly More podcast, a podcast designed to help you unlock a life of more faith, more courage, more dreams, more freedom. We hope that you will overcome challenges and develop the resilience to live the life God always wanted you to live. My name is Joe Vacani, and this is my wife, Kate, and we do this together. Kate, good to see you.
Good to see you since I've been seeing you all day.
It's awesome. Why wouldn't you want to see me all day? So, Kate, this episode, we're going to talk about how do we start our organization, or where do you start? How do you overcome challenges or paralyzation? How we got kicked out of our first event, and also mental structures that you need to develop in the process. So, let's just start off with a little bit more about the organization we started 15 years ago and the work that you're actually doing and we're doing in Sierra Leone.
Yeah, so our heart was to fund and help see drilled one well a year. And that became 15 wells in the first year. And then we would go back and film the wells that were drilled, take pictures, because for a good reason, a lot of people are skeptical about international charity. And so we really wanted to connect people to the people that they were helping. So we go back and we would film the wells being drilled, film dirty water sites so people could really relate with empathy to what people are going through in lots of parts of the world. There's just under 1 billion people in the world today still without access to clean drinking water, and thousands of children die every day from water-related disease. So we just wanted to do one well, our little part. And after the first year, we would, as we were going back on trips to see these wells drilled and completed and to bring it back for donors, we would go to those villages. And the next thing that we started to see was children wandering around with little or no clothes on and just seeming to be in great distress. So we asked the people in the villages, who are those children? And they would say, oh, those are the street children. And I'm talking about like as young as 5. How is a 5-year-old a street child? But Sierra Leone is actually the most dangerous place in the world to give birth. 1 in 17 women die in childbirth. So that creates a lot of orphans. There's a lot of kids wandering around. People do their best to help them, but they're struggling, living on less than $1 a day. And so we're people that we don't believe in reinventing the wheel, and that's one thing we would encourage you with. So we started to ask around, are there organizations already here helping children? And we searched and searched and couldn't find any. So we said, we can't turn away. We set out to do one well a year, but now there's these kids that are right in front of us. And so we ended up opening a children's home, thinking we'll just take care of, 10, 15 kids and then continue on with well drilling. And that just grew. Once you have kids safe, now you have to think about how do you feed them? Then you have to think about how do you educate them, because how do you break cycles of poverty? And we learned that in Sierra Leone, only 1 in 3 kids even goes to school because they don't have teachers. And the teachers they do have, the government couldn't afford to pay. And so now the teachers were lucky to show up, once a week. So our kids that we're trying to better are now sitting in empty classrooms with no teacher. And so we said, okay, well, again, we have to now help them in this. So we ended up getting 30-acre campus. We opened up a school. School goes from preschool all the way through high school. We're now trying to send kids to university. And this has just really been the idea of one thing leads to another and another. I use the analogy of an onion. You pull back the layers. And the onion analogy is really good too, because onions make you cry. So we've cried for the suffering that we've seen, but you cry with feeling overwhelmed and all of the challenges that come along the way.
Yeah, it's amazing. You were a nurse. I was a pharmacist. We have a medical background, and so we had left those careers to pursue other things. Never thought, or do believe, God always wastes nothing.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about where it is today as far as medically in Sierra Leone, some of the things that the organization's doing.
Yeah, and we'll tell this story in a detail in a future episode, but on my first trip into Sierra Leone, we encountered a little boy who was the same age as our youngest son at the time, suffering, dying from water-related disease. And so having a medical background, I really felt helpless in that moment that I had medical knowledge, but I didn't have the resources to save this little boy's life. And so I'm so thankful to God that now full circle on our campus is a health center. We have a full-time midwife who is helping people to have safe deliveries. Part of that high maternal death rate, 1 in 17 women, is because women are giving birth on dirty village floors. And so it's very unsafe, lots of risk for infection, all of those types of things. So we now have a midwife doing safe deliveries. I think we probably save people from serious malaria cases, about 20 people a month, plus all the kids at school, all kinds of different health issues. And then on top of that, malnutrition is a huge issue in Sierra Leone. Most people, we can't fathom this as Americans, but most people are lucky to get 1 cup of white rice a day. And so you have stunted growth, very sick people. The life expectancy is like 47 years old. So we would be like super old people there. And there's just so many problems. A country of 6 million people, only 80 doctors. So now we have not only the health center doing safe deliveries. We sent a little portable ultrasound machine, which was what my nursing background was in, maternal baby. And our team has been able to save lives with that, diagnose problems, get women to one of the few hospitals in the country ahead of time to save their lives. And then a program that we're really proud of is our malnutrition outreach program. So we have 50 women and their children every month enrolled in this program, and they get food every week. We weigh the babies, we do health assessments on them, any kind of medical care, and then we give them the meals that are packed here in Buffalo, and they go off and eat those meals. We've seen kids go from the brink of starvation to health in as short as 4 weeks. So it's just really been incredible as we continue to peel back the onion.
Yeah, it's been amazing to also see all the people that have come along with us from the beginning. Nothing we've ever done have we ever done alone. We are always a community here with the community there. And we're just so thankful over the past couple of years. People will reach out to us. A lot of our hospital equipment there, because their starting point, there's not a lot of, we have generators. So there's a local hospital here that was basically closing down, and they had a lot of old equipment that we couldn't use in our hospital here, but we were able to ship over there and right away applied. So it has been so awesome. How many total staff are in Sierra Leone?
Yeah, we have 60 full-time Sierra Leonean staff, and one of the coolest things about that is just multiply times 10 the people that you're helping by employing one person, because they're then helping their relatives and family members. And in a lot of cases, they're the only member in their immediate or extended family that even has the opportunity for work.
Yeah, so cool. One of the reasons why we don't have any American staff over there is because we've always believed from the beginning that we didn't grow up in Sierra Leone, West Africa. We don't know the culture. We grew up in Buffalo, New York, and we know the uniqueness and the beauty of our city here. And we felt it's our job to provide people with opportunity and resources, and they're the ones who can dream up what a better future looks like for their people, their friends. They might not dream of having a mall. They're gonna dream up of what works for them. And so that's always been a big part of what we founded this organization on, is empowering people and let them dream. So the kids that you have on the campus and the young girls you have in one of our homes, a couple years ago, we've gotten to know them. You've taken many trips over there, me less than you. And as they've gotten to know us, know you, hear your story, they wanted to, on their own, start a church. So that's something else you got going on now in that campus as well.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. There's been so many times that I go over there and they're like, hey, come see this thing we're doing. And like, what do you mean? We didn't send you money for that. We didn't, help you with it. And they've done it on their own. And there's a lot to be grateful for, but those are the moments that I feel the most grateful and overwhelmed by God, is when they feel free to dream. And that's really what hope is. Hope is when you actually feel like tomorrow could be better than today, and somebody gives you that. And I love the idea that it's, there's a song called Bonfire Heart or something along those lines. And I love that idea that there's people out there and they're bringing the sticks, but they just need that spark. And we've been able to be the spark. So yeah, one of the most beautiful moments was sitting in that pavilion, listening to kids that were orphaned, girls that were rescued from horrible things, women whose children were already grown but are now widows that could just be relaxing in a village somewhere, but that are loving these kids like they're their own, investing in them, hearing them sing praise to God. There's a song there, tell him thank you, tell Papa God thank you. And it's just incredible because it's their testimony of how God spoke to people on the other side of the world and answered their prayers and then came alongside them. And, you know, people will say, wow, you've done so much for those people. But I would honestly argue that they've done so much for us, so much more for the people that have come on trips. Because while they have physical poverty, they have an abundance of the spirit, an abundance of community. And here, compared to most of the world, even the poorest of Americans have physical abundance, but we can lack and have poverty of spirit and community. And we've just learned and gained so much from them.
It's so beautiful. We're still learning. We're still amazed. We're still inspired. They inspire us. And we're so happy telling their story and what they've done. Kate, the reason why we're launching this podcast, and this is episode 2, is because we've always believed that the potential lies in every one of us. There's a God-given potential He's given us to dream, but sometimes people get paralyzed. And so this podcast is about overcoming challenges. And one of the challenges today we're going to talk about is maybe you're out there and you have some dreams, and you're in the daydreaming phase, but you haven't moved to action yet because you're paralyzed. That is a normal human experience, to feel paralyzed and overwhelmed. So, Kate, where would you tell people today, where's a place they could start? They're hearing this whole big thing that we talked about, which has taken 15 years. This didn't happen day one. Where can they start today?
Whatever problem you're trying to address or passion you have in your heart, just get involved somewhere. Somebody's doing it in some form. You might have a vision to do it differently, but there's likely somebody out there doing it. And that's how it was for us. We went to a conference. We heard about people not having clean water. We wanted to do something. So we worked together with a group of young people and raised money for a well, and then gave it to another organization with boots on the ground. So I would say find someone that is doing something similar to what's on your heart, or just serve somewhere. You're going to learn a lot. And that takes you out of being stuck in this idea phase and gets you going. And that's what God is looking for, people whose feet are willing to move and to act. Our faith involves movement.
Yeah, Kate's we've been volunteering a lot in our lives. And so we tell people, start volunteering somewhere. That's an action step that you could take. Start getting involved. And Kate, you're a jumper. So help people. This is about also helping people become free. So what's involved in jumping?
You just jump. You know, if you're, I don't like heights, but if you're standing up, you find yourself today standing, you know, up at the edge of this cliff, and you've been waiting to do that next thing. Sometimes you just have to jump, and then you're gonna build your landing pad as you're falling. I know that for a lot of people, for myself, you can get stuck in the self-doubt, the voices of other people, the idea we've been talking about how the heart of this is to be untamed. And it doesn't seem normal to jump off a cliff. Everything in you resists that. We want to protect ourselves. And you have to just go sometimes and say, what is the worst that could happen? And what and who are on the other side of your unwillingness to jump, your fear, and just go, do something. Just decide, I'm going to make that phone call. I'm going to send that email. I'm going to show up at that event. I'm going to just serve, and then see what God does with your jumping.
Oh, so good. You talked about what's on the other side. I immediately think of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where his father has been shot, and the only thing that's going to save his father is he needs to drink from the Holy Grail. And so he has to basically go through a series of things that are near death. No one survived. It's an unknown territory. And the last challenge he has to face is there's a chasm, there's a cliff. He has to basically take a leap of faith. And you see it and you know it's impossible. And he sticks his foot out. And it's kind of like this. And he just, by faith, and he puts it down. And his foot actually lands on a strong surface. And it turns out it was an optical illusion. There actually was a bridge all along, but you just couldn't see it. And, you know, jumping sometimes is you don't have it all figured out. But God is that bridge. He will guide your steps. He will guide your path. What he's asking is just to take the next step, incremental steps, and he's going to figure it all out. And you're along for the great journey, and then you get to be a part of bringing back that Holy Grail that brings life to people and others.
Yeah, it's so true. And you know, think about in the Lord's Prayer, it says, "Give us, you know, this day our daily bread." We don't really, as Americans, understand what that is like to rely on God, or else we're not going to eat. And so I'm convinced that what he's asking us to do as he's leading you is to allow yourself to be put in situations that unless he comes through, like, you're toast. Because otherwise, what do you need him for if you can figure it all out and do it? And so, you know, somebody's listening right now and they're feeling that thing inside where they know that God has called, you know, God has called you to something, and you've been holding out. You have all of the reasons, the lists, and you're oh, I just got to do this one more thing, or this connection has to, when this happens, I'll finally go. And I believe that God wants to set you free today to just go. Do you trust him? Do you trust him that when you jump, he's going to provide you with the next step? But you got to put yourself out into a spot where, unless he shows up, where our faith intersects with God's provision, you know, that's where things happen. But you have to take that first step.
That's so good. And I think in closing, I'm just going to share, when you take that step of faith, when you begin to take a step, none of it will be easy. In fact, our very first event that we put on with a bunch of youth, we have a space we reserved, and Kate came. We had our two kids were young at the time, probably 4 and 2, so little kids. Kate drove all the way, got to the event early, set up a pack and play, which is basically a portable crib. And you set up your kids, you have a little video playing, because when you have little kids, you have a short window. And she had the little video player set up, the kids had goldfish, they had Cheerios, all the little things. And we had a 2-hour window to set up for this event that was going to be raising money for a well. And what happened was, the place that we had reserved, well, they double booked. And it wasn't an error on our end, it was on their end. But unfortunately, the other people who were going to use that space, they needed it. And so we got kicked out of the space. So it's 2 hours before an event. We have the kids set up, and we can't even set up for our event yet. So when you start, well, people might not know. You might go through anxiety, pressure, obstacles, but you will have to learn how to develop the resilience. And as Kate said, if you have what's on the other side in front of you, if that is, you know, your why that drives you, you will find a way to overcome. And we did eventually pull off that event, and nobody knew that the start of this event, which of course it should have been easy, we're doing something that is clearly God's will. It's helping people and helping the poor. And the whole part in the beginning was not easy at all. So I want to thank you for listening again to this episode with us. We can't wait to hear your stories of things you're trying. But also, we don't do this without other people. So if this is helping to you, please share, like, and pass this on to other people. But we are so excited, and we believe that every person who listens to this is going to take what they've learned, and you're going to unlock a life. Our hope is of more faith, of more courage, more dreams, and to live the life God always imagined for you. That's what we want for you too.